Hey, thanks so much, guys, for joining us on today's episode of Willing Wednesdays. Today we have a really special guest, a guy called Damien. He started a business called Tastebuds SG, and they've been doing some really, really good work for the community right now during this COVID-19 period. I'm not going to talk too much. I'm going to get Damien to introduce himself and tell us a bit about himself. So, hi, Damien. Thanks very much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Can you please tell us a bit more about what you do and give us a bit of a sensing of your background as well?
Yeah, sure. So Tastebuds was set up recently as an online portal, a meat specialist portal to provide restaurant produce directly to consumers. It was set up by three friends, Ryan, Lewis, and myself, with their frustration of not being able to get fresh quality produce at reasonable prices. So if you look at the stock that we have, we're one of the cheapest in Singapore and the highest quality. Yeah. Because our background is the parent company basically is one of the largest providers of meat in Singapore. They provide to about 500 different restaurants.
I see. That's really cool. So yeah. How did you? What initiated that first idea? And in terms of like what you guys are doing right now to help needy families, maybe you can give us a bit of background about that. And what initiated that first idea?
Well, when we heard of the situation, or the situation in Singapore of COVID was growing quite rapidly and progressing daily, the most logical way for us to help was to provide food for the needy. So we just donated $20,000 worth of food for the poor, which we thought, well, let's see the response. And it was quite saddening and humbling to get so many emails of people just needing food. We live in Singapore, which is probably the highest GDP per capita in the world, yet there were hundreds and hundreds of people asking for any sort of assistance in this situation. So it was quite surprising. So we're continuing to do so. Every week we probably serve about 300 to 600 families, and we're going to keep doing so until as long as we can, because there's been a few extra donations along the way where people are quite inspired in reference to what we're doing and want to participate. So, which is very humbling as well. So we'll keep going and do as much as we can for people. Yeah,
that's fantastic, man. I love it. I think that this is really the spirit of what there's a campaign, or more like a movement called SG Together, and that whole movement is about different parts of society coming together to be able to solve different types of problems. Are you? How long have you been in Singapore? Were you born here?
So my father's Singaporean, and I came here about 20 years ago. So I've had a few different businesses along the way, and the food business is the latest one. Yeah.
That's fantastic, man. Like, I love it. I think that it's amazing to have so many amazing people come together to provide solutions for this difficult time. And I think what you're doing embodies the spirit of the SG Together movement, where private citizens come in and help to fill gaps that they see. So on that note, with regards to these gaps, I understand that in our initial conversation, we had some conversations about your operations, right? So can you talk to me a bit about how you guys operate? So you have depots?
In reference to the giveaway, or Tastebuds delivering directly to individuals? Which
both. We can talk about both.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So with the online portal, we're able to deliver food fresh the next business day, which, despite the challenges with the number of orders covering in, we're still able to fulfill. So if an individual orders before 11 o'clock on Monday, they'll be able to get their food delivered the next day. And one of our key differentiators is basically providing fresh produce directly with the next day delivery. That was one of our key elements that we wanted to work on, because a lot of people were complaining different portals out there weren't able to deliver for 3 or 4 or 5 days. So we're able to secure that next day delivery by partly owning the trucks that are going out there, and also the outsourced delivery agents that we're using. have committed the delivery times and slots to us. So,
I
yeah.
see. And what about the depots, the delivering to needy families?
Yeah, the depots is a different model. So we started by delivering the food directly to the individuals, but we thought it was an inefficient use of time because it takes 35, 40 minutes to go to each house to deliver a basket of goods. Not that we didn't want to, but we wanted to try to help as many people as we could. So we had a few different depots now that are being set up around Singapore where people can actually pick up their food directly. So they write us an email, and I'll be very frank, we do not vet the emails. So we're relying on people's trust and faith. If they say they need food, we want to try to give it to them. So if they're calling out for an email with us, they tell us their situation. We either provide 1 or 2 bags, sometimes 3 bags, depending on the size of their family and their personal situation. They come over to the depot, they pick it up, and it's honestly available the next day for them. So we do that 2 or 3 times a week, in Singapore. So it's been going really, really well.
That's fantastic. So, out of this experience, I'm sure that you have probably met people that are outside of your regular networks as well, right? Like, so, what were some of the stories, or what were some of the instances that have kind of opened up your eyes to the different conditions of people living in Singapore?
Really good question. It's quite sobering. When I went over to some of the HDBs to deliver the food. I mean, Singapore is a world-class city, and you walk inside there and you open the door and you peek inside the door and you see people who are lying on nothing more than sheets, living in their HDBs. And sometimes it's sad. It's a single mother with 3 or 4 kids, and the kids are wearing dirty shirts and old pants, and you see their situation and their desperation in their eyes, and you see their face when you just give them, a kilo of frozen chicken and vegetables and rice. By this day and age, we should be able to look after all Singaporeans, foreigners and locals. Like, we should be, if we invite them into the country, we should be able to take care of their basic needs. I think that's a real reflection of a first world country, is to be able to provide solutions for third world problems. We should be able to provide meat, fish, vegetables, rice on the table for people that are in need of it.
Yeah, so it's a complicated issue, isn't it? Like,
It is.
yeah, it's because, like, if you take a look at social assistance in Singapore, especially, there is actually quite a fair bit of social assistance. It's just a matter of how it actually gets to the individual, right? So, based off this experience that you've gone through, do you see that food security is a gap, or do you feel that it's a gap, especially in times of crisis like this?
I think food security is also always a gap, and I think that there are a number of avenues for individuals to get assistance in Singapore, whether they realise that, whether they have time for that, or whether they feel embarrassed to ask for a helping hand. What we can do is quietly they get an email, they want help, we just give it to them. There's no red tape. So there's no filling out forms with your name. It's all done privately. So, it can be abused, and we have seen some of that. But 9 out of 10 people are not abusing the situation and are not receiving the sorts of help from the government that the government is willing to provide. So reducing the red tape is one of the things that perhaps we could all do to enable to get food on the table. And it's something that every day we wait, some little kid goes hungry, especially in this situation.
Yeah, 100%. So I think that it can be a sobering experience, especially if we're not exposed to these kinds of difficulties, that everyday Singaporeans face on a regular basis. Do you think that the impact of COVID has exacerbated these issues for these individuals, or do you think there's always been sort of an underlying problem?
I think it's absolutely it's worsened the situation, exacerbated the issues, but I also think it's highlighted some of the issues that Singapore face, which have been hidden from the media and hidden from various outlets. It's funny that we live right next to a neighbour that might be, and people think food supply is leveraged with their mortgage. They might have just lost their job. There are a lot of people that actually, through no fault of their own, can't provide food on the table. They might have been made redundant from their company, and you think that your traditional belief, or a lot of people think that a lot of these people are lazy, they don't want to work. But I'm seeing a very different individual. I'm seeing a person that wants to work, wants to contribute, but can't. And for these people, we need to be there. We need to be there for them.
Let's go down that path of conversation. I think it's really important because this touches on the cultural aspects of assistance, right? So, for example, like when you do this, like you're obviously not expecting something in return. Like there's no expectation, right? So you want to help. You created this. You and your friends got together, and you guys are now feeding families, right? But in terms of assistance, I think that there are two parts that are a bit more confusing. And you touched on one earlier on, which was shame, right? Like that's a big part. Sometimes people need help, but they are unable to ask for it, right? Or
face,
right? Yeah. So there's a very Asian culture type thing, right? And the second portion of this is, of course, when we're talking about things like when you want to help, do you need to qualify? How much do you need to qualify that person actually needs the help, right? So how have you broken these barriers down? So I know for the second part, you don't ask questions, but the face portion of things, how do you facilitate that to make the person feel comfortable in receiving the help that you are giving?
Some of them have asked us, do we take photos of them to publicize that we're helping out people for, Tastebuds is helping? No way. We won't, if they want help, we won't divulge their names, who they are, where they live, all their personal situations to anyone. If they want help, we'll give it to them on the source of food supply. So that's how we deal with it. Essentially, when you fill out a form, people don't trust that the data is used, or people don't know where the data goes. So we don't ask them to fill out forms. And I think that's, if you're going to give something, you give it. Let God decide, work out who actually, is deserving or not. But when you're a giver, you need to give graciously, generously, and as much as you can. Otherwise, you're not doing it in the right way. My mum always kind of was talking about that. If you're going to give. Don't give and then analyze the recipient. If they're asking for help and you're willing to give, just give.
Yeah. That's a good motto, man. I believe in that thinking too. It is really important to not have to qualify the conditions of the individual that you're giving to. You already made a decision, right? So if you want to give, just give, right? So I totally agree.
Having said that, say a guy rolls up in a 911 GT3 or something like that, and they're asking for a food hamper. We will ask a few questions. So just want to kind of alert that we're not stupid in the sense of giving to absolutely everyone. But maybe if the story of that GT3 guy can't sell the car because it's COVID and he's lost his job, maybe there is an element of truth that he does need that food hamper. And that's an example. Just because they look rich and this and that doesn't mean that they don't need help.
100%.
Hurt a lot of people.
So on that note, it's really about not having to qualify how the situation has impacted you. I think that there is also this idea that COVID has impacted people in various types of ways, but it's hurt obviously people who can't afford food on a daily basis is impacted them a lot more, right? But also from a psychological perspective, say for example, if you've lost your job, if you don't have, even if let's say for example you come from a much better off background and you don't have the ability to be able to now go to work, you've lost your income. These kinds of situations are important to help as well, right?
Well, what about another situation? What about an elderly person who is afraid to get out of the house and has lost their job? How do they get food? So we tie up with a few organizations like Food Rescue Singapore, blah, 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 to enable delivery of food in those situations to happen. So we do the depot as a basic, but there are individual situations where we'll hear them out and say, okay, if you need food, you can't get out of your house, you're worried about this virus, fair enough. Let's try to provide a solution.
So how big is your team right now? Like how many people are working with you on this? Like internally, I know you said you had 3 partners. Like, but outside of that network, how many people have volunteered their time to volunteer their energy to?
I'd say there's about 15.
Wow.
15 people, and more people are willing to help, but we just don't have the capacity to put everyone in role straight away. Like for instance, they might need a delivery on Monday, but they can only help out on Friday. So there's a few logistical elements.
I see. I understand that you guys are also launching a next phase to this campaign where it's a like for a how do you phrase it? If you like on Facebook, then you'll be able to get one meal. So one free, yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of working on that solution. So if you like us on Facebook, basically then just email us whoever needs a meal, right? If you know of anybody that does need food, just like us on Facebook, write us an email of the situation, and we'll do our best to get a meal to that family. Simple as that, and the meal is not one meal. The meal is maybe 1 to 2 kilos of chicken, vegetables, and rice, which would provide a family of 3 for roughly 4 or 5 days.
That's great, man. Like, it's really, really good what you guys are doing, man. I love it. So how has this situation impacted you guys? I know you guys are doing all this work, how has the situation, how has COVID-19 impacted your business in terms from a delivery standpoint, from the restaurants closing down? Because we've interviewed some other folks. So I'm not sure if you know this movement called Choke and Save. So so their whole thing is they want to try and save F&B restaurants as well, right? So
sure.
So how has this impacted you guys from a business standpoint?
So one of the issues is we do our own delivery as much as we can. So we have our own fridge trucks that kind of can deliver around Singapore. Plus we use specialist delivery agents. We don't use your Grabs and stuff, which might take 30% of a restaurant's fee. So it goes directly into delivery agents' purses rather than a larger corporation, let's say. How has COVID impacted our business? Because we're in the grocer, because we're an online grocer, it's been one of the few businesses that has probably benefited, if I can say that in the right frame, from the COVID situation, because a lot more people are eating at home. So we're doing a lot more deliveries, and a lot more produce is being pushed through the portal. So we're doing lots of meat now. We're also doing seafood. Dairy is going to be coming through. Vegetables, some basic vegetables is also available on our website on Tastebuds SG. So we're basically expanding the produce that we traditionally provided. Obviously, meat was our foundation, but then people were saying, "Can you provide vegetables and other things?" which we are now doing.
That's good to hear, man. Like most businesses have definitely been impacted by the situation badly, so it's really good to hear and speak to someone that one is doing good work, and two is also being able to spread. Uh, I guess like the better way to say it is that the fact that you're doing better in the situation and you're helping others that are not doing as well. Like that's really really good. So yeah, maybe you can tell me also a bit more about yourself. Like, are you married? Like, do you have kids?
My wife's sitting opposite me. So yes, happily married with three beautiful kids. We had three under three.
Oh.
So yeah, my wife told her not to touch her past 7 p.m. For fear of a fourth. We've thrown out all the candles. So yeah, we've got a very busy family. Let's say.
Wow, so three under three. That's a handful, man.
Oh, it's more than a handful. It's probably the most. I'm definitely over my head in responsibility right now.
So how are you handling that? Because a lot of people are right now working from home, right? So I have some friends who are parents as well. So it's shifting from being able to go to the office, coming back, like that. Yeah, so how are you handling that?
People realize how much they love their jobs when they stay at home with their kids for 23 out of 24 hours. Look, we're handling it pretty well, all things considered. It's challenging for the kids because when we shut the door to our bedroom, for instance, we go to work, they kind of don't understand that. Mummy and daddy, why are you shutting the door on us? But over time, it's working. It's a bit of a shame they can't go to daycare and have that social element. But look, we're all in the same boat together, so everybody's struggling.
Yeah, everybody is really struggling right now at this point. It's been really great chatting with you, man, Damien. I think
Pleasure.
I think you're a solid guy. Maybe what you can do right now is you can give us a bit of a shout out on the things that are coming up for you, and if people want to help, how they can help. I understand that you're running a donation drive as well.
Sure.
Maybe you can talk a bit about those things, and we'll link them up in our.
Thank you.
Yeah,
no sure.
Yeah.
So look, we're always looking for depot points. So if you're a restaurant that can help us cold store meats, vegetables successfully, we are always looking for more depots because we have maybe 2 or 3 depots around Singapore. But if we had 5, 6, 7, 8, it would be closer to a lot of the needy. So if you are a restaurant owner, a big shout out. Look, we know you're suffering yourselves, but if you are closed down and you could provide some sort of cold storage facility where people can just simply pick up their basket of goods, would be very grateful for that kind of donation. If people want to donate to Tastebuds, all the money for the charity, for the giveaway, please, 100% of the proceeds go towards. There is no admin, there is no markups. 100% goes to the feeding your community, your fellow Singaporeans that you might walk by on the street that you don't know are in trouble. Again, we get chicken for the lowest price you could probably get it in Singapore. We buy at wholesale. So when we say if we can raise 40 grand worth of in cash, that might be 80 grand, $90,000 worth of food. Which is a lot, like tons and tons of food for them. So every dollar you go to goes directly to buying food. It doesn't go to any admin. We don't get paid for all this kind of situation. So if you want to donate, there's an email, hello@tastebuds.sg. Please email us if you'd like to donate. We'll set up another page later that facilitates donations. But there are some people that have graciously just donated by emailing us, and we're very, very grateful to them. And if you are in any way have ideas on how we could better food delivery to the needy, we'd love to hear from you. Like, we don't have all the solutions. We're learning as we go. We by no means believe we're experts at distribution. If you think you can help, even if you think that chance is 5%, we'd love to hear from you. So just sing out to hello@tastebuds.sg, and we'd love to get the ball rolling through conversations. Yeah.
And the Facebook page is going to be linked in this conversation as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so you guys can visit the page there to check out the information as well. Yeah. So, hey, thanks very much, Damien, for this conversation. It's been being able to do this, like interview people like you, and we just started this content series, right? Like,
Mm.
it's been very, very heartwarming to be able to see so many Singaporeans like coming together and just trying to make Singapore a better place during this period of time, and also hopefully beyond. This spirit of
Oh,
giving.
but you feel just as good when you deliver a parcel of food and
Yeah.
someone's grateful for it. I mean, in this day and age, it's just such a simple thing to do. We should be able to do it, you know.
100%, 100%. All right, okay. So thanks very much for joining us on this episode of Willing Wednesdays. If you guys are interested in checking out the conversations that we had previously, they are all going to be in the playlist. There will be a link above. If you guys want to check out more about what Damien is talking about, and all the links to Tastebuds SG, they will also be in the links above. All right, thank you very much, guys.
Pleasure. Stay safe, everybody.